Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira vanachari. Yamunatira vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraja Acharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we have couple different holidays today, so I'll just read. So we have the appearance. One is the appearance of Srila Shyamananda Prabhu. So I'll read from this Gaudiya Vaishnava Samadhis in Vrindavan book about Srila Shyamananda Prabhu. Feeling very sad over losing several children before his birth, his parents named him Dukhi Krishna Das. Dukhi means suffering. Upon taking Diksha initiation from Sridhar Chaitanya, he became known as Krishna Das. In Vrindavan, he joined Narottam Das Thakur and Srinivas Acharya to study the Goswami Granthas books under Sri Jiva Goswami. Many, quote, ankle bell stories describe how Krishna Das received Radharani's mercy. The name Shyamananda and his unique tilak mark. Shripad B.V. Narayan Maharaj gives this account in Navadvip Dham Parikram. While living in Vrindavan, Krishnadas regularly swept the streets before dawn. He performed this humble service so that the Vaishnavas would not hurt their feet while walking to the temples. One morning, he found a captivatingly beautiful golden ankle bracelet. When Lalita and Vishaka Sakhis asked for the bracelet, Krishnadas said he would only give it to the original owner. Blindfolding Krishnadas, the gopis brought him to Srimati Radhika. She allowed him to put the bracelet on her ankle. But before fastening it, Krishnadas reverentially touched it to his forehead. This left a new tilak mark which now distinguishes all of Shyamananda's followers. Rejoicing over Krishnadas's good fortune, Sri Jiva Goswami awarded him the name Shyamananda, one who pleases Srimati Radharani or the servant of Shyamasundar Krishna. Sometime after Hridaya Chaitanya's disappearance, he reappeared in a dream telling Shyamananda to preach. With the help of his foremost disciple Rasika Ananda, Shyamananda profusely spread the worship and service of Gaura-Nityananda all over Orissa. 24-hour kirtan surrounds Shyamananda's Pushpa Samadhi, which is located on the opposite side of the street running between Radha Shyamasundar and Radha Damodar temples in Vrindavan. Shyamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. And then we also have Vamshivardhana Thakur. So I'll read a little bit about him. Sri Vamsivardhana Thakur appeared on the full moon day in the month of Chaitra. Within Kulia exist the villages Tegari, Bechiyava, Bedrapar, and Chinedanga. The sons of Shikar Chattopadhyay moved from Bilvagram to Bechiyanagram. Sri Sri Yudhishthir Sri Sri Yudhishthir Chattopadhyay had three sons, Madhavadas, Sri Haridas, and Sri Krishna Sampati. When Mahaprabhu came from Puri to have darshan of his mother and the river Ganga, he stayed for 7 days in the house of Madhavadas at Kulia. At this time, he excused Devananda Pandit along with all the offenses of everyone else. Therefore, the place became known as Aparad Bhanjanapat. Sri Vamsi Thakur appeared in the home of Sri Madhavadas. His mother's name was Srimati Chandrakala Devi. Vamsivadana is the incarnation of Sri Krishna's flute. On the day of his birth, Mahaprabhu was present in the house of Sri Madhavadas, along with Sri Advaitacharya. Madhava was very devoted to Mahaprabhu, and Prabhu was also very affectionate to him and his son, Vamshi. Vamshi Das was present at Navadvip when Acharya Prabhu came there. Vamshi was engaged in the service of Vishnupriya and was the receptacle of her unlimited mercy. One time, Vishnupriya Devi and Vamshi Thakur decided to give up taking food and water. There not being any point to maintaining their bodies, which were so racked with the pain of separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu, however, didn't approve of this and manifested himself before them. Then he requested them not to behave so rashly, and then instructed them both to worship his deity form in order to mitigate their feelings of separation. After Vishnupriya's disappearance, Vamsivadana brought this deity of Mahaprabhu from Mayapur to Kulya. This deity of Mahaprabhu is very beautiful and is still being worshipped in the present town of Navadvip. The name of the temple and deity is Dhameshwara. It is said that the name Vamsivadana is carved underneath the base of the deity. When his descendant Ramachandra Goswami came to live at Bhagnapar, by the mercy of Janava Mata, the worship of the deity passed into the hands of the residents of Malancha. There was a deity of Gopinath at Kulya worshipped by Vamsi's ancestors, and he personally installed a deity of Pranaballabha at their home in Kulya. Where these deities are at present is unknown. Vamsi Thakur resided at Bilvagram for some time with his relatives there. He had two sons, Sri Chaitanya Das and Sri Nityananda Das. The two sons of Chaitanya Das were Sri Ramachandra and Sri Shachinandana. Ramachandra was the adopted son and disciple of Janava Mata. He established the worship of Sri Sri Kanai Balai at Bhagnapar. As he never married, the worship passed on to his brother Shachinandana, whose descendants are the resident Goswamis there. Vamsivadana was a poet and composer of songs. He composed one song about the Lord's acceptance of sannyas based on the lamentations of Sri Shachimata and Vishnupriya. Some say that Ramachandra Goswami, the son of Chaitanya Das, Vamsi Thakur's son, Goshai, was an incarnation of Vamshi Thakur. Sri Vamsivadana Thakur ki jai. Okay, and then I'll just speak briefly on Vasanta Rasa and Balaram Rasa Yatra. So Krishna, he engages in the Rasa dance twice during the year. So once is in the autumn, which we celebrate during Kartik, and then once during the spring. So today is the date of Krishna's spring rasa dance. So that's Sri Krishna Vasanta Rasa. And then at the same time, during the same time, there's Balaram Rasa Yatra. So Balaram also engages in a rasa dance at this time. And it's said in the 10th canto, it describes how Balaram wanted to go to Vrindavan. This is after Krishna had gone to Dwarka. Krishna and Balaram had gone to Dwarka for some time. And the residents of Vrindavan were feeling great separation from Krishna and Balaram. Krishna and Balaram were the Vrajvasis. This was their life and soul, was Krishna and Balaram, and they had left. So Balaram took Krishna's permission, went back to Vrindavan, just to console Nanda Maharaj, just to console Yashoda Mai, just to console the gopis and the other residents of Vrindavan. And so during this time, the gopis who had not engaged in the rasa dance with Krishna, they engaged in the rasa dance with Balaram. So he gave them that chance at Sri Ram Ghat, which is a long distance away from where Krishna performed his rasa dance. So that's a little bit about the holidays today. So now we'll speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled The Creative Impetus. Whoa. Chapter 15, text number 2. Text number 2. Oh, text 2, okay. Tasmad vriddhasenayam devatajan nama putro bhavat tasmat from Sumati. Vriddhasenayam, in the womb of his wife, named Vriddhasena. Devatajit nama, named Devajit. Named Devatajit. Putraha, a son. Abhavat, was born. Translation. From Sumati, a son named Devatajit was born by the womb of his wife, named Vriddhasena. And I'll read the next few verses. There's no purports. Thereafter, in the womb of Asuri, the wife of Devatajit, a son named Devadumna was begotten. Devadumna begot in the womb of his wife Dhenumati, a son named Parameshti. Parameshti begot a son named Pratiha in the womb of his wife Suvarchala. King Pratiha personally propagated the principles of self-realization in this way, not only was he purified, but he became a great devotee of the Supreme Person, Lord Visnu, and directly realized him. Purport. The word anusasmara is significant. God consciousness is not imaginary or concocted. The devotee who is pure and advanced realizes God as he is. Maharaja Pratiha did so, and due to his direct realization of Lord Visnu, he propagated self-realization and became a preacher. A real preacher cannot be bogus. He must first of all realize Lord Visnu as he is, as confirmed in the Bhagavad-gita, upadekṣyanti jñānaṁ, jñāninas tattva-darśinaḥ. One who has seen the truth can impart knowledge. The word tattva-darśī refers to one who has perfectly realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a person can become a guru and propound Vaisnava philosophy all over the world. The paragon of bona fide preachers and guru, the paragon of bona fide preachers and guru is King Pratiha. Om ajñānatimirandasya jñānāñjana-shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter is one of many chapters in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in the Puranas in general. There's many chapters like this in the Puranas, where it's very long lists of names that seem to go on and on and on and on, of difficult to pronounce names. So we might feel that, okay, there's no way I'm going to memorize all these names. There's no way that I'm going to remember any of this. And it's not really philosophy, so, maybe just skip over it. Sometimes devotees feel that way. Or they just kind of, just kind of speed through it and not really reading it. So, but still, it's important, although, yes, you will never really hear in Srimad Bhagavatam class devotees reciting these huge, long lists of names by heart. Still, they're important because it's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's important. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, he says, Krishna tulya Bhagavata vibhu sarvashroy, prati shloke prati akar, okare, nana artakoi. That Krishna is non-different from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. And prati shloke, prati akare, meaning every shloka, every syllable of the Srimad Bhagavatam is fully transcendental, and many different meanings can be derived from it. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental, even if it seems like, okay, this is kind of, even we might think it's boring. Still, it's included in the Bhagavatam for our purification. And Shukadeva Goswami comments on this in the 12th canto. He says, actually, there's a list here. He gives a list of names. I'll read. Such kings as Prithu, Pururava, Gadhi, Nahusha, Parata, Kartavirya, Arjuna, Mandhata, Sagara, Rama, Kartvanga, Dunduha, Raghu, Tirnabindu, Yayati, Sharyati, Shantanu, Gaya, Bhaghirata, Kuvalayashva, Kakutstha, Naishadha, Nriga, Hiranyakashipu, Vritra, Ravana, who made the whole world lament, Namuchi, Shambhara, Bhauma, Hiranyaksha, and Taraka, as well as many other demons and kings who possessed great powers of control over others, were all full of knowledge, heroic, all-conquering, and unconquerable. Nevertheless, O Almighty Lord, although they lived their lives intensely trying to possess me, these kings were subject to the passage of time, which reduced them all to mere historical accounts. None of them could permanently establish their rule. In the next verse, which is pertinent to what we're reading here, he says, Shukadeva Goswami says, O mighty Parikshit, I have related to you the narrations of all these great kings who spread their fame throughout the world and then departed. My real purpose was to teach transcendental knowledge and renunciation. Stories of kings lend power and opulence to these narrations, but do not in and of themselves constitute the ultimate aspect of knowledge. So, Shukadeva Goswami practically, in this verse, we understand that everything in the Bhagavatam is essential. There's nothing which is not essential in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But there are parts of the Bhagavatam which you could say are more essential, that we, focus on more and study more. So Shukadeva Goswami is saying, yes, I've narrated all these stories of kings, but the real point was to teach knowledge and renunciation. So these kings who are listed, these various personalities who are listed in the Bhagavatam and who are listed in the different Puranas, they're included for our purification, because it's not just anyone. It's not just anyone who's included in the Bhagavatam. If they make it in the Bhagavatam, it's understood that they're personalities who we can take knowledge from, who we can understand their example. So when we read these lists of names, we can, offer these people respect, these devotees. We can offer them respect. And, So in this verse, we're hearing particularly about King Pratiha, who said personally propagated the principles of self-realization. He understood, what is it? Prabhupada says in the purport. Right, oh, actually it's in the text. He became a great devotee of the Supreme Person, Lord Visnu, and directly realized him. So, in this verse, we're hearing about the power of understanding Krishna as he is. So if we understand Krishna as he is, meaning we understand who we are also in relation to Krishna, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, then we understand that everybody needs to go back home, back to Godhead, and understand Krishna as he is. Because if we understand Krishna as he is, then we understand Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas, that we are all constitutional. The constitutional position of the spirit soul is that we are related. We have a relationship with Krishna, loving, reciprocal relationship of service to Krishna. That's who we really are. But due to our association with the material nature, with the modes of material nature, we've come under this condition of where things are always changing. We're in this material body, and the material body is always changing. Birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dośānudarṣinam. And as a result, we're suffering very much. Birth is not fun. You can only imagine. Of course, we don't remember our birth, but you can only imagine. Experiencing birth would not be fun. To be in this very tight enclosed space and be pushed out. And then Maharaj always likes to comment that the first thing that happens when you come out is they give you a nice slap on the rear end. So the first thing that we experience when we enter this material world, this body, is suffering. And then, of course, life goes on, and we may experience so many things. And then old age comes, and then with old age comes disease. The body becomes, very decrepit, and eventually it just becomes completely useless. So the spirit soul gives it up. And then, based on what our consciousness that we're in at the time of death, the momentum that we're developing in this life, we get a suitable body, we get a suitable set of senses in our next life, which we use to continue that momentum, continue in that direction. So if we don't, like this, the law of inertia, a body in motion tends to stay in motion, whereas a body in rest tends to stay at rest. So if we don't somehow interrupt, unless acted upon by an external force, so if we don't interrupt that momentum, which we call karma, then we'll have to continue on again and again and again and again, suffering birth, death, old age, and disease. And the threefold miseries, meaning miseries caused by the body, the mind, the body and mind, other living entities, natural occurrences, etc., etc. There's so much suffering in this world because we've accepted this world as a source of happiness, as a source of eternal happiness. We may say, okay, well, I'll just take the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, or every cloud is a silver lining, or what is it? What was it? Oh yeah, one door closes another door. Anyway, so many of these little things that people come up with. But really, people are actually extremely attached to never-ending happiness. And even they may act like they're very enlightened and detached, and whatever happens, I'll just be happy. But it's a bluff. It's a bluff. They don't actually feel that way. They don't actually have realization. That's not such a cheap thing to just, I'll take the good with the bad, and I'll just be equipoised no matter what happens. That's not such a cheap thing. It's not that you can just have that idea and really realize it and really feel that way and really be able to practically apply it. And we see that whenever things happen to people, they just freak out whenever their life doesn't go in the direction that they were expecting. They freak out. So people, they need this momentum that they're developing in the wrong direction. They need it to be interrupted. They need to be told what's what. They need to be instructed properly for their benefit. And so one who realizes God as he is, Krishna as he is, Vishnu as he is, understands the conditioned soul situation and feels compassion, understanding that Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita that one who is in knowledge, he feels the pains and pleasures of the other living entities as his own. Because we've all felt pain before. I know what it's like to feel pain. Tyler knows what it's like to feel pain. Saul knows what it's like to feel pain. And similarly, we all know what it's like to feel happiness. So, from our experience, we can understand the experience of others. So we understand that, yes, these people are suffering. These people need help. These people need something to pull them out of this dark ocean of material existence. And so that's why the devotees of Krishna, they go out and they try to give people knowledge of Krishna, give people knowledge of the soul, tell people, hey, you're not that body. You're a spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. That's Srivida Prabhu's poem. But they go out and they try to help people. And by going out and trying to help people obtain spiritual knowledge, like this verse is saying, in this way, not only was King Pratiha purified, but he became a great devotee of the Supreme Person, Lord Visnu, and directly realized him. So by going out and by helping people, by propagating this Krishna conscious movement, by pushing it on, we become fixed. We obtain the mercy of Krishna, and we become fixed in devotional service. It benefits us too. Just like yeah, it's because when well, first of all, it's very pleasing to Krishna. It's very pleasing to Krishna when we go out and we try to save people. We try to get them, to chant. We try to get them to, read Srila Prabhupada's books, etc., etc. It's very pleasing to Krishna. So he bestows his mercy upon us. He bestows fixity on us so that we can continue in that service. Krishna sees, okay, this person is very dedicated, this person is very serious, let's keep him around. And so he gives us that mercy to keep going, that strength. And also when one goes out and tries to deliver people, he may meet with so much opposition, he may meet with so many, you could say, he meets with so much opposition, so many trying circumstances. Because the material world's a rough place. It really is. It's a rough place. So when we go out and we're like behind enemy lines, and so we become strong. Just like when you work out your muscles, there's some pain. There's some pain, but like they say, no pain, no gain. So we go out and we go out into the modes of material nature, and we go out and we give our association to those people who are entrapped in those modes of material nature. But it's just like water, like a drop of water on the petals of a lotus. It just rolls right off. So preaching makes us fixed. It makes us very fixed. And also it gives us impetus, not just the act of preaching makes us fixed, but also the very fact that we are going out and we are preaching and we are trying to give people Krishna consciousness, it gives us impetus. It gives us impetus to be fixed ourselves. Prabhupada says that without preaching, without understanding the philosophy and preaching it, there's no question of us being strong in Krishna consciousness. Because when we preach, we have to know what we're preaching. If we're saying, please read the Bhagavad-gita, if we're saying, please, try to understand Krishna. If we don't understand Krishna ourselves, what's the question of us trying to make other people will ask us, okay, who is Krishna? And if we just sit there, I don't know, what effect will our preaching have? So it gives us impetus to stay fixed. And also if we're going out into the modes of material nature, into the material world, we have to be strong. We have to be wearing some armor. And so this armor is obtained by hearing. This armor is obtained by hearing Shastra, by hearing Prabhupada. And it protects us because it puts us into spiritual consciousness. Just like a plant. If you have it in our heart, there's a creeper of bhakti, this metaphorical creeper, little plant, which we're cultivating. This is our practice, our spiritual practice. So we have to water it with shravanadi jal. Shravanadi jal means the water of hearing. And so when we water it, the plant becomes very strong, just like we have plants out here. We had this plant, it's called these purple flowers here by the Krishna Lounge. You've all seen those? They're called yesterday, today, and tomorrow's because they're very nice, but they don't last very long. That's why they say yesterday, today, and tomorrow, because basically they last for like 3 days. They fade very quickly. But we had one, and somebody dumped, it was doing very well, but then somebody dumped a bunch of ice cream water on it. And the thing just, it freaked out. And just all the leaves went away, all the flowers went away. We thought it was dead. But now we see it just came right back. So similarly, the creeper in our heart, the bhakti creeper in our heart, it has to be very strong. Because if we're preaching, because and just in general too, but if we go out and associate with the modes of material nature, and we get this ice cream water of the modes of material nature poured on our bhakti creeper, if it's not strong, it won't survive. So we have to be very strong. And also, interestingly, in this purport, Prabhupada says, a real preacher cannot be bogus. He must first of all realize Lord Vishnu as he is. So Prabhupada's saying, okay, yes, you get purified by preaching, but then Prabhupada seems to be saying he must first of all realize Lord Vishnu as he is. You must first of all be purified and then preach. So it seems almost like a contradiction. It seems like, and Prabhupada also, their statements where Prabhupada says, even in this purport, a real preacher cannot be bogus. But we're all bogus. Unless we're pure devotees, we're all bogus. Practically. Or at least there's aspects of bogusness within us. So it seems like a contradiction. It seems like, okay, well, I thought I get purified by preaching. But Prabhupada seems to be saying that I must be purified first and then I can preach. So how do we understand? Well, yes, that's true. Both are correct. That, yes, one must first of all realize Lord Vishnu as he is. One should be, if one is going out and preaching, one should be a pure devotee. And pure devotee means anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dinavartam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. Means that we should cultivate this attitude of love and service to Krishna, which is free from anyabhilash, which is free from any other desires, which is free from desires for speculative knowledge, desires for fruitive work. We should be free of those things. And then we preach. But if that were the case, how would this movement go on? How would we continue to push on the Krishna consciousness movement if we only let pure devotees go out and preach? So, you could say another definition for a pure devotee is one who is on the path of pure devotional service, one who is sincere in his practice of Krishna consciousness. Just like there's that verse, Vijay Prabhu, I don't know the Sanskrit for this verse, Jivan Mukta Sa Uchate, from Jiva, I think it's Jiva Goswami. But anyway, he's saying one who practices Krishna consciousness, even in this life, he becomes Jivan Mukta. He becomes liberated in this life. And of course, pure devotion is not necessarily the same as liberation. But still, we can understand that one can be considered a pure devotee if he's not actively a type of pure devotee, if he's not actively pursuing, engaging, and cultivating these different material desires, these different material desires. So, in that sense, any sincere person in the Krishna consciousness movement should go out, whatever they can do, should go out and try to help people, try to give people spiritual knowledge. And Prabhupada says that that is the progress of the Krishna consciousness movement. And so the best kind of preaching, the best kind of way to propagate spiritual knowledge as given to us by Srila Prabhupada is book distribution. To distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada says, what will your 3-minute speech do? What will it do? Who are we to go out in all of our rascal and to go out and try to say, hey, surrender to Krishna? Who will take it from us? So the idea is that we give people books. We give people Prabhupada in the form of his books. And we let Prabhupada do the work. Who are we? Who are we to do the work? Prabhupada has written so many books. He's put his life and soul in his books. Prabhupada said, I've put everything in my books that you need to go back to Godhead. Everything you need is in my books. So we go and we give people Prabhupada's books, and they read it. In even one page, their entire life could be changed. The entire course of their material existence could be changed. So Prabhupada says that is the best preaching. Each book sold means that there is some practical effect of preaching, that there is some tangible progress. So we see that as books go out, this Krishna consciousness movement is taking a step forward. Prabhupada says one Krishna book sold means we go forward one step in Krishna consciousness. But that could be extended also to the Krishna consciousness movement in general, that any book which goes out, it's a step forward in this Krishna consciousness movement. The Hare Krishna movement is meant to go forward. We're meant to progress on the path back to Godhead. And we're meant to progress in making waves in this world. Prithiviteyacha jata nagaradi gram. Lord Chaitanya has predicted that his name, his qualities will be sung in every town and village all over the world. So the work, Prabhupada did a lot of the work, but he left the rest for us. So we have to go out and extend Prabhupada's mercy to those who haven't received it yet. And Prabhupada says that there's nothing that can stop this Krishna consciousness movement. Krishna's name will be preached in every town and village. Lord Chaitanya's name will be preached in every town and village. It's just a matter of if we want to be a part of it or not. Do we want to be a part of extending Krishna's mercy? Do we want to be a part of the Hare Krishna revolution? This is the question. And Prabhupada, he gives special mercy. Krishna gives special mercy to those who are going out and who are giving mercy to others. There's a pastime that occurred in 1975 after the opening of the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. The first arti was performed by Prabhupada. I've said this pastime before in class, and Rajendra Nandana Prabhu. I heard it from him in class. But it's an amazing pastime. It's quite funny. So the first arti was performed by Prabhupada. But the second arti, it was Sura Prabhu, Vaisheshika Prabhu, and Tripurari Swami. So it was 1975, and so they were doing the arti. All of them were doing the arti. And somehow or other, they didn't really know what they were doing. Like one of them was taking one of them started with the chamara or started with the fan, and then the other one took the arghya water and just started throwing it on the deities. And then, one of them, they couldn't keep the lamp lit, there was like all, fans and stuff going. And so it was kind of it was a little, messy, you could say. And so Prabhupada was in the audience with Tamal Krishna Goswami. He was watching this arti going on. And he asked Tamal Krishna Goswami, he says, what's going on here? Who are these people? And Tamal Krishna Goswami says, well, they're Tripurari's men, meaning they're book distributors. And Prabhupada said, that is all right then. So there's special mercy. Prabhupada gives special concession to the book distributors because book distribution is directly its worship of Prabhupada. Just like we hear in the, I guess I have the 12th canto here, I can read it. In the 12th canto it says, anyway, I won't find it. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna Sangopanga Ashtra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. That anybody who has Sumedasa, anybody who has good intelligence, they engage in the process of worship of Krishna, who comes in this age as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna, but he's not Krishna in the sense that he's not blackish, he's golden. And so anybody who has good intelligence engages in this Sankirtan Yagya, because Lord Chaitanya has given us the Sankirtan Yagya. And so similarly, within the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, which was started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada has inaugurated mass book distribution. Book distribution was also going on under Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It was also going on the Goswamis. They were distributing their books. Or the Goswamis' books were distributed by their descendants. But book distribution as the primary means, or book distribution as a primary means, man to man, on the street, book distribution, that was inaugurated by our own Srila Prabhupada. And so, just like Sankirtan Yagya, chanting of the holy, congregational chanting of the holy names, is worship of Lord Chaitanya, book distribution is directly worship of Srila Prabhupada. And so another pastime in San Francisco, Prabhupada wrote a letter to Keshava in San Francisco. They had reported their book distribution scores for that month to Prabhupada. And Keshava had reported that they were distributing 70 Krishna books a day, 70 Maha books a day. But specifically, he was saying Krishna books, which, you know, back then was a lot. That was a lot. Yeah, that was, yeah, biggest. Nowadays, devotees are doing, I mean, my godbrother Mahotsaha Prabhu, you see, he's distributing. I'm in this group chat, this Krishna Life group chat for their temple, and they send pictures of their book distribution there. And Mahotsaha Prabhu is distributing to one person 5 Saptarishi sets, meaning 5 sets of, I guess it's 9. I guess it's like a Navarishi now. 9 books, 5 sets of 9 books. He's distributing 45 books to one person, just on the street. That's mystical. That's really mystical. And Bhagavatam sets too. He's distributing Bhagavatam sets to people on the street in Walmart parking lots. So 70 Krishna books a day, glorious, amazing. But by today's standards, you know, that's pretty, you could say average almost. It's pretty average. And so Prabhupada said, okay, well, because of this, I must come visit your temple. I must come visit your temple when I come back to America. So Prabhupada was attracted. He was attracted by this book distribution. He was physically attracted by this book distribution in the sense that he came to the temple because they were distributing so many books. So similarly, if we just go out and we try to do something for Krishna, do something for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Prabhupada, Prabhupada will be attracted. Prabhupada's mercy will be attracted. We will attract Prabhupada's mercy. But like this purport is emphasizing, we have to be pure. We have to understand Vishnu as he is. We have to engage seriously in the process of Krishna consciousness. We have to hear from Prabhupada. We have to hear Shastra. We have to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam intensely, seriously, trying to glean, what's his name? Burijan Prabhu. Burijan Prabhu has this article, Prayerful Reading. And he says that when we read Shastra, it's not that we should just try to memorize, or we should try to just read a certain amount of pages and get our quota in. When we read, we should understand, okay, and pray also, that we are associating with Prabhupada, that we're associating with Shukadeva Goswami, that we're associating with Krishna himself. Because Krishna, like that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita was saying, Krishna Tulya Bhagavat, that Krishna, he's non-different from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we're reading the Bhagavatam, we're actually associating with Krishna directly. It's non-different from him being right next to us. And so we have to try to understand that. We have to try to pray that we can properly take advantage of that association. Not necessarily just try to lord it over the knowledge in the Bhagavatam. That won't get us anywhere. If we want to be pure, we have to be sincere. We have to sincerely pray to the spiritual master. Like this verse is saying, upadekṣyanti te jñānaṁ jñāninas tattva-darśinaḥ. We have to pray to the spiritual master because the spiritual master, he's tattva-darśī. He has understood Krishna as he is. And so if we want to have this understanding of Krishna as he is, if we want to have an understanding of devotional service, if we want to have strength, motivation, enthusiasm, etc., to engage in devotional service, we have to really pray, cry out to the spiritual master. And if we cry out, if we sincerely cry out to the spiritual master, no question he'll come. No question he'll give us mercy. And so that's the point of this Krishna consciousness movement, that we have to learn how to cry. In the material world, when we're, before we were in devotional life, before we were in spiritual life, we were crying so much for Maya. We were crying so much for sense gratification, crying so much as a result of our suffering in the material world, hankering and lamenting. But now we've come to Krishna consciousness and we think, okay, yes, I'll be very happy. But actually this is a crying movement. We have to cry because we're very fallen, we're very lowly, we're unable to properly engage in devotional service. We're unable to understand. Our senses are limited. Our strength is limited. Our stamina is limited. So when we have a tendency to become lax, become complacent, become offensive. So we have to pray. We have to cry. Cry and cry and cry and cry and cry like anything to the spiritual master, to Krishna, for their mercy. Please bestow your mercy upon me. Please help me to properly engage in devotional service. Help me to become pure, develop saintly qualities. And then with this, if we understand Krishna as he is, if we understand the process of devotional service as it is, and we become pure and we develop saintly qualities, then naturally, just like if you taste some very, very nice food, and you're tasting it and you're like, oh my God, this is the best gulab jamuns I've ever had in my entire life. Everybody should taste this. And you go around to all the other devotees and you say, Prabhu, have you tried these gulab jamuns? And you give you distribute these gulab jamuns to all the Prabhus so that I could share in the nectar of the gulab jamuns. So similarly, one who becomes pure, one who is tasting Krishna consciousness, one who is really relishing it, feels everybody needs to hear this. Everybody needs to know who Krishna is. Everybody needs to engage in devotional service. So this is the point. This is the goal of our Krishna consciousness movement and the practical function that it has within this world to take steps forward and progress and bring people within the scope, within the realm of Krishna's mercy. So that's all I'll say for now, and we can have questions. Okay. Dimitri.
Thank you very much for the class. And this very emotional, like you can tell you speak in your heart and sharing your realizations. Very nice. But could you also say a few Sankirtan stories that really inspired you, that happened to you? Like one or a few, so we can also hear.
Maybe you could give a nice Sankirtan story. Yeah, that inspired you. While I think of one.
Well, just a few days ago, this Mataji, her name's Heather. She was coming around for a few times, and she was really fired up to get a Bhagavatam set. And she speaks about Krishna like it's all that she wants to hear, like it's all her life. And she said that every time she gets back from work, she always eager to open a book and start reading it. So yeah, me and Saul, we were speaking with her, and eventually she got interested in getting a Bhagavatam set, and that's one of the recent ones. Okay. Oh yeah, she. It's actually kind of funny. We were outside of the door, and we unpacked the set and showed her a few books, and she got one book, and she's like, "Oh, this is it. This is for me." And she kissed a Bhagavatam book.
Wow.
I'm gonna definitely come back and pick it up, she said. And she did. She came back the next day and got the set.
Anybody else? Anand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, great class. Just a small comment, if I may, about the part of your lecture where you were highlighting the suffering during birth. So psychological researchers have actually concluded that the trauma of the birth actually leads to one of the major three natural dispositions or tendencies in a person's life. One of them being sadness, second being fear, and third being anger. And people spend their lives working out these issues with their psychiatrist, but those natural tendencies were developed during the process of birth itself.
Wow. So it's confirmed. If you don't want to be depressed, don't take birth again.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
A comment and a question. My comment is, I was writing a note from this class, and I noticed a note I took from one of your classes months ago, and it kind of connects with Balaram Rasa. And it's, we are seeking spiritual rasa in the material world, which is really interesting that as we seek material sense gratification, it's actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual rasa that we're really meant to do. And my question is, when we are performing devotional service, like you said, it pleases Krishna, can that be considered communication with Krishna or a rasa with Krishna, actual service?
Yeah. It's dasya rasa. If we're engaging in practical service to Krishna, in the stage of, like, I mean, there's on the neophyte platform, on our platform, then all of our service is in this dasya rasa. This dasya, for those who don't know, das means servant. So dasya rasa means the mood of a servant. So Krishna, there's unlimited relationships one can have with Krishna, friend, lover, parent, etc., etc., etc. So one who, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So on our platform, all of the service that we render is in dasya rasa. So even our worship of Radha Krishna on the altar is actually worship of Lakshmi Narayan. It's not necessarily worship of Radha Krishna, because Radha Krishna is in Madhurya rasa. And we don't have the adhikar, the qualification, to enter into that. So all of the service that we render is in dasya rasa. All of it's all awe and reverence. There's no question for those who are not pure devotees to have any other real rasa, Krishna. So, yeah. Vinit.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing your heart. It's very interesting. You're heading out on traveling Sankirtan soon, and this verse comes up about Maharaja Pratiha, and today's Balaram Rasa Yatra, Krishna Rasa Yatra. I was remembering His Grace Indra Prabhu. His Grace Indra Prabhu would say that the Rasa dance with Krishna and the gopis is at the Vaidhi Sadhaka platform, it is the chanting of the holy names. It is the performance of the limbs of devotional service under regulation. That is analogous to the dancing. But how do the gopis come to the rasasthali? It is by the playing of the flute of Krishna. And the playing of the flute, Indra Prabhu compared it to book distribution. So if Krishna's flute does not perform its function, then the gopis would not know when it is time to come out of their houses to the rasasthali. So in that way, book distribution is so integral. We are being like that, Vamsi, trying to be an instrument in the hands of the Lord to spread His voice. So I was meditating on that. And another comment was that Indra Prabhu would also say that a Ghoshtyanandi, or someone who preaches, is actually a Bhajananandi who preaches. So one who's preaching must have very, very steady sadhana and a taste for Krishna consciousness, as you mentioned very nicely in the class. If we are not deep in our sadhana, and if we have not realized that this is so tasty, we can't tell others that this is such a beautiful process. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an interesting. It's a nice analogy. Yeah, but yeah, I've also heard that this preaching is actually the business of the gopis, because the gopis, yeah, like you were saying, yeah.
When the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, all the devotees could read Lord Chaitanya's explanation of the last verse of the Shikshashtaka. And that's, it's an intimate verse where Radharani is saying, even, no matter what Krishna does, he still remains my Lord. My love for him will not be damaged. And then in the explanation, Lord Chaitanya, in the role of Radharani, she says that if Krishna wants to be with another gopi, then I'll go to that gopi and take her hand and bring her to Krishna. I'll be very happy, because my only desire is the pleasure of Krishna. You see? So Tripurari Prabhu, who was at, I don't think it was sannyas yet, maybe it was, he asked Prabhupada, this seems to be like what we're trying to do in Sankirtan, where we're going out and we're trying to get people to take the book, and in this way to come closer to Krishna. And Prabhupada agreed with that. This is the same mood because everyone is ultimately a servant of Krishna, but they've forgotten. So if you're taking them by the hand, so to speak, or the consciousness, and bringing them a step closer to Krishna. And for the fortunate ones, they become enthralled and enlivened. They come closer and closer to Krishna. So that book distribution is in that mood of going out and trying to bring others to Krishna's lotus feet.
Try. Okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
From Zoom?
Yes.
Yes, Amogha Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. My question is, if I am not yet perfectly realized about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, should I distribute books? And if your answer is yes, the follow-up question is, how so?
Yes. And how so is you pray like anything that you don't fall down. Prabhupada said that he would always pray to Srimati Radharani, please don't let me fall down. Prabhupada's a pure devotee. There's no question of him falling down. So we have to, if we're not pure, and even if we're pure, we should always be praying for the mercy of Krishna that we don't fall down. So we go out into whatever the material world, and we extend ourselves to the fallen conditioned souls, and we give them association. And that's significant because not that we associate with them, we take their association. No, we give them our association. But like I was mentioning in the class, it has to be like a droplet of water on the petal of a lotus flower. It has to just roll right off of us. But without proper spiritual strength, it won't roll right off of us. We'll be affected. And we see sometimes we are affected. So we have to pray, and pray that we stay strong and seriously engage in hearing and chanting before and after we go out. And then that way we'll be fired up. Is that okay?
Yes, so like praying like crying?
Yes, cry.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. As usual, brilliant answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.